So we wanted to share some good news with everybody. We are adopting embryos, and that sounds a little weird. It just means we're adopting kids at a very young age, a post-fertilized age. So these are embryos that are the product of in vitro fertilization from some other couple who was infertile and went through the process of IVF and has finished growing their family and now has leftover embryos. And typically the options for leftover embryos are either to donate them to science, which who knows what that would entail, or to let them thaw out and essentially die. The third option is to give them up for adoption, and that is an option that we're going to be on the receiving end of. And so going through the process of adopting an embryo or embryos is not too dissimilar from a typical adoption process. We're working through an agency called Nightlight Christian Adoptions, and they are a reputable agency, done many adoptions, and over the past 20 years they've sort of pioneered the embryo adoption or the snowflake adoption program. And so we're really excited about that prospect for a number of reasons. There's a whole backstory to how we got to this place at 40 and 41 years old, and 40 and 41 years old, and it's pretty significant for us to be at this place and both on the same page, because that wasn't always the case, was it?
No.
Do you want to tell that story?
Sure. Okay. So 12 years ago, we decided to make a decision to not have any more children, because after we got married, we got pregnant right away with Joshua, and then soon after with Samuel. And so, I lived with the regret of that decision for many years, and lots of tears and lots of crying out to the Lord, and not only asking for forgiveness, but asking for Him to intervene, because we know that God's powerful, and not being able to have any more children is not beyond Him to bless us with more. But so we waited for many years, and I stopped talking to Kev about it and just continued to pray for him on my own, and every day, because every day I am reminded that we didn't grow our family more, and I'm perfectly content with my boys that we have that are 13 and 15, and love being a mom. I love it. It's my favorite. So it's not like I don't have enough, but I knew when we got married that I wanted to have a really big family. And so in 2015, we decided to reverse the decision we had done years prior to that, and had an amazing experience in Texas with a Christian doctor, and it was rad. It was such an answered prayer for me as a wife to have my husband suggest to have children naturally on our own. And so 4 years later, this last April, we still have not had more children, and we went to a doctor to talk about doing it naturally, and because of my age and the age of my eggs and of Kev, and we can't do it naturally.
Well, there's about a 10% chance of conceiving naturally.
Yeah. So, and we don't ethically believe in IVF because of various reasons, but I started actually 6 years ago, I looked into the Snowflake ministry at Nightlight, and at the time, Kev wasn't interested in doing that, and it's a lot of money. It's cheaper than an international or national adoption, but so I had known a little bit about that ministry, and so that's where we are. Just about 3 weeks. A lot has happened in a short period of time, and it's a really cool story that my husband has. He's just as excited as I am, and just as nervous, and super supportive, and is doing everything to make this happen as quickly as possible, because it is I have to be pregnant, and that's a 9-month period, and then the embryo adoption can take anywhere from 8 to 13 months, and so it's a long time, and we are 40 and 41, so we kind of want to get this going.
Yeah. And for me, many, if not all of you, may know that I am particularly concerned about a whole segment of our population that's being exterminated through abortion. And so one of the really cool things that I've been able to do, at least in conversation with people, even the last couple weeks, has been to share with them the good news that we're adopting. And people ask, oh, what age or what circumstances, right? Are you adopting a newborn or a kid that's 2 or whatever? And I say, no, we're adopting embryos. And even literally today at church, a woman I was talking to, a couple, and her jaw just hits the floor. And there could be a number of reasons for that, but I think it kind of blows people's mind. But the cool thing about it is that I get to share that God values life, and that life begins at the beginning, which sounds silly to say, but for us to be able to communicate the value of life at the earliest stages through an example that we're setting, and that these embryos are no longer just an egg or a sperm. They're actually something entirely new, with a zipped up DNA, with all the chromosomes and a gender, and the roadmap for what they will be like as a fully grown human being. But these are little human beings that in some cases are being discarded, and we're not okay with that at that stage. We're not okay with that at 5 weeks, 10 weeks, 20 weeks, 30 weeks, 40 weeks gestation. We're not okay with that because we believe that it's always wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being, and that as soon as life begins, also known as conception, that human life begins, intentionally taking that life is always wrong. And so it's just provided an awesome conversation starter with the friends that we have and people that we are just meeting that would applaud adoption, but are intrigued to find out more about embryo adoption, and maybe it would even challenge their beliefs about abortion. And looking forward to having conversations with people about that, so that we can move our society to a place of greater compassion and inclusivity of that group of people who right now are not having their rights defended. So we're in for a long journey. We're in for, we don't know what. It's expensive, it's complicated, lots of paperwork, all those things, but we're taking the next step because this is the place that we feel like God has brought us to. 12, 13 years ago, when we made the decision to not have more kids, a lot of that decision was out of fear and not out of faith. And we've been in a 12 or 13 year kind of a wilderness of, wilderness out in the desert, trying to come to terms with that decision and realizing that was a mistake and that was presumptuous of us. And now being back at the place kind of on the edge of the promised land with another decision to make about whether we'll continue to walk into what is a bit of a scary proposition, or whether we're going to shrink back in fear and so we're taking this step of faith, and we would ask you to take it with us as we're going to need a lot of prayer, a lot of support, a lot of courage. We're going to need financial resource. We're going to need emotional resource, and we're looking to have at least 2 more kids. Who knows if there's more, but when you do this kind of thing, you adopt more embryos than you intend to have as kids. So we'll probably be adopting 4 to 7 embryos, knowing that some of them actually won't make the thaw process, or some of them won't survive what they call the transfer process, or the transfer into the uterus. So we're gonna give them the best chance for life and pray and ask that God would give them life. So thank you for watching and partnering with us in any way that you can. And we'll provide regular updates as we have them.
Thank you.